All right, folks, buckle up, because what we're about to dive into isn't your typical political chit-chat. Before we get started, comment below where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Today, we're looking at a conversation that doesn't hold anything back. Mehdi Hasan joins the host of the I've Had It podcast for a discussion that's raw, unfiltered, and frankly, a bit shocking. They aren't just talking politics. They're holding up a mirror to the failures of corporate media, exposing the cracks, the blind spots, and the moments that everyone seems to ignore. At the heart of it is one of the most urgent stories in American public life right now: the troubling signs of Donald Trump's cognitive and physical decline. This isn't about partisan attacks or opinion. It's about observing patterns in plain sight that any responsible commentator should be asking questions about. The way Trump has been conducting himself, the erratic behavior, the public missteps, all of it is happening on the world stage. And yet, so much of it is shrugged off, normalized, or buried by the mainstream press. I want to make one thing clear before we dive in. Context matters. We're going to watch this clip in its entirety first, so you see the full conversation exactly as it happened. No edits, no cherry-picking, no spin. The discussion comes straight from the I've Had It podcast, and I'll drop the link to the full interview in the description so you can watch it yourself and form your own take. Once we go through the full clip, I'll break down my perspective, why this conversation matters, what it says about the media, and why ignoring these patterns isn't just a lapse in judgment, it's a failure of accountability. So sit tight, pay attention, and let's jump straight into the full discussion.
Yeah, unfortunately, the media hasn't met this moment, as you guys know, as well as I do. And therefore, those of us who are still trying to call out the bullshit in front of our eyes, we are still trying to be, the emperor's new clothes I think about from my childhood. Just say what is actually going on in front of us. Say that Donald Trump is wandering around like a madman on his Asia visit. Say that he's rambling about good-looking people to the troops in Japan yesterday. Just be able to say, this is not normal, right? That's the four-letter sentence, a four-word, sentence of our era. This is not normal.
Right. No, and can you imagine just the Japan trip, his behavior and the wandering around and the politicization of the troops. And it's, to me, I'm no physician, but he clearly has some form of dementia. And just 24 hours prior to the wandering around lost with the Japanese prime minister, on Air Force One, he bragged about taking a animal identification test, a picture of a giraffe. He was able to choose it. And he bragged about that. And it's not, I turned on CNN this morning. I was like, is anybody talking about that?
Yeah. No.
Went to MSNBC, crickets.
We've normalized it. Everyone has, whether liberal, conservative. I've tried not to. For 10 years, I've tried to keep going, saying, I moved to this country in 2015, just weeks before he came down that golden escalator. My entire presence in this country for 10 years has been defined by Donald Trump being in our public scene and people normalizing what I see and many others see as clearly abnormal. And, he goes on top of the White House and does a rant. He walked around the roof of the White House, got no coverage at the time. I remember doing a quick check of all the news websites. Who was saying, if he's just wandering, an old man's wandering around the top of his house screaming about nuclear missiles. Even on that flight, Jennifer, on Sunday, he also talked about taking an MRI, and then he wouldn't say why. And I'm trying to think about another president, forget Joe Biden, any other president who could say, oh, I took an MRI, I'm not going to tell you why. I got shot in the ear, but I'm not going to release the medical records. I went to an annual check for my health, even though I already had one a few months ago. I've got weird blotchy things on my hand that make me look like someone out of Count Dracula. All of that has happened in the last few weeks, and yet we just carry on like normal, like the president is not having some kind of physical or mental health crisis.
And then not to mention, this gets buried all the time, but it's just something I try to bring up to the surface. He went on about the size of Arnold Palmer's cock. And within 30 days of that, Mehdi, he tried to give a microphone a blowjob that wasn't working. And this just, any other politician, that would be career ending.
Oh, that's 10 years of this. And it's, again, you can't blame Trump, right? We go, oh, Trump. It's not Trump's fault. He is who he is. It's the rest of ours fault for enabling it, for looking away, for aiding and abetting, for moving on, for tolerating, for excusing. The number of people, even liberals, who say stuff like, you'll tell them something. I'll tell friends of mine, Donald Trump just did this, and they'll just chuckle, say, that's who Trump is. We don't do that for anyone else.
Right.
How did the freak from Home Alone 2 get this special single pass from the entire American public, American media, American political establishment. I mean, you talk about manhood, size of penises. He made fun of Marco Rubio's manhood back in 2016. I'm old enough to remember that. I know we will move on. Marco Rubio today is his Secretary of State who stands silently and is perfected. Did you see him on Air Force One? He just stands there straight-faced as Trump rambles about the dementia test and how Jasmine Crockett couldn't beat him in a dementia test. And Rubio's just standing there, just straight-faced. I wonder if he practices that in the mirror in the morning. Just how do I keep a straight face when this clearly insane boss of mine is saying stuff? But, you know, these people will sell out for anything. He wanted to be Secretary of State. He wants to run for president in 2028. So Marco Rubio, a man who knows better, and just tolerates it. And I think history will judge the Rubios of this world much harsher than they'll judge the Peter Hegseths of this world.
Mehdi Hasan and the hosts of I've Had It are highlighting something obvious but rarely addressed. Donald Trump's behavior today is abnormal for any president, and yet it's being treated as normal. If anyone else in his position acted like this, mixing up leaders' names, stumbling over basic words, losing track mid-sentence, or ending speeches incoherently, they'd be forced out immediately. But Trump? The public and media shrug it off. Age-related decline is normal in the late 70s, yes. But the double standard is striking. Joe Biden's age and mental fitness were constantly questioned, while Trump's clear cognitive and physical issues are largely ignored. Experts note changes in his speech, repetition, confusion, circular phrasing. His brief cognitive test from years ago proves nothing about current fitness, yet his team pushes a perfect health narrative. This isn't gossip. It's real, observable, and happening in plain sight. The media's failure to cover it consistently is the real problem. Voters have a right to know if the person making decisions affecting the world is mentally and physically fit. Do you see this happening? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel keep delivering clear, honest breakdowns.